Genesis chapter 31. Alright, I'll just read it. Verse 10. And it came to pass at the time that the cattle conceived, that I lifted up mine eyes, and I saw in a dream. It came to pass at the time that the cattle conceived, that I lifted up my eyes, and saw in a dream there means in his imagination. And behold, the rams which leaped up upon the cattle were ring streaked, speckled, and grizzled. Then the angel of the Lord spoke to me, and I said, prior to that, if you look at 28 verse 10 or verse 16, and Jacob awaked out of his sleep and said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. And was afraid and said, how dreadful is this place? This is none other but the house of God, and this is the gate to heaven. Then finally, look at Acts chapter 27. Acts 27 verse 7. And when we had sailed slowly many days, and the skies were come over against Christ, the wind not suffering us, we sailed under Crete over and against Salmon, and hardly passing it, came unto a place called the Fair Havens. And then verse 9 says, now when much time was spent, and when sailing was now dangerous, because the fast was now already past, Paul admonished them and said, sirs, I perceive that this voyage will be with hurt and damage, not only to the lading and ship, but also our lives. Nevertheless, the centurion believed the master and the owner of the ship more than those things that were spoken by Paul. And because the haven was not commodious to winter in, the more part advised, which meant that there was an election kind of, majority of the people advised. Paul said, I perceive majority of people advised to depart thence also, if by any means they might attain to Phoenix and then to winter. And then it says in verse 13, and when the south wind blew softly, so the captain said, let's go, majority of them said, let's go, the weather changed and it blew softly, supposing that they had obtained their purpose because of the seemingly cooperation of the environment, loosing things called by the name creative, and not long after that they arose against it a tempestuous wind, and when the ship was caught and could not bear up the wind, they let it drive. And then finally, where I want to read here is that Paul finally, verse 21 says, but after a long abstinence, Paul stood forth in the midst of them and said, sirs, you should have hearkened unto me and not have loosed from Crete, and have gained this arm and loss. And now I exhort you to be of good cheer, for there shall not be the loss of any man's life among you, but of the ship. For there stood by me this night the angel of the Lord, whose I am and whom I serve, saying, fear not, Paul, thou must be brought before Caesar, and lo, God hath given thee all them that sail with thee. Wherefore, sirs, be of good cheer, for I believe God that it shall be even as it was told me. Now, over the past 2 weeks, last week particularly, we spoke about your reticular activating system, which is simply a system that is built on the inside and makes you recognize things in your environment. When something important is happening in your environment, that will lead to the fulfillment of the vision that you have for your life, which means that the things that you have received on the inside of yourself, that is a part of your being that seeks for the match in your environment, which means once it finds in your environment the opportunity for the fulfillment of that particular thing, whether it is positive or negative, it alerts you. So what happens is, if what you receive and the image you hold is one of failure, and then you get into any situation where it feels that you're about to fail, it will alert you and tell you that you're about to fail, walk out of this. Now, so we spoke about that. Now, this morning I want to, still speaking along those lines, go into 3 things that I believe are crucial, the 3 things that are on the scene that every single person must understand how it works for you to have, when you step into things, to understand that you are being backed by the unseen realm in what you are doing, which is you can produce after some time in your life the evidence of things that are not seen in your own life, because you understand how these three things operate. The first is mental imagery of where you are going in life. And we will speak in detail about that in the process of receiving from God. What we saw that Jacob had, Jacob started out in a place where he said, I didn't know that this place is the house of God. I didn't know I was positioned here by God. And let me just say this, you will be in positions. Every single person starts out by not knowing. Everybody starts out, quote and unquote, lost. Which means lost, not that God doesn't know where you are, because all things lie naked and open to the eyes of whom we have to do. And when something is lost, it means the person looking for it cannot find it. So it's not God that doesn't know where we are. He said to Adam, where are you? It's Adam himself, which means that being lost here means we really don't know where we are, and we really don't know what is going on within our environment. That is the starting point. That's where I want to start, and to show that Jacob's eyes was opened up. He was asleep, and many people are still asleep, and when they get awakened, they say that if I were on this place, if I was working in this company, if I was doing this, I would have known that God is with me and God is right there with me. But here, I'm not sure. And when Jacob woke up from sleep, he said, I didn't know that this is the place of God. This is his house. That is, I am actually standing and I'm in position for what God wants to do and his plan for my life. So we'll speak about three forces. One, mental imagery, dealing with your imagination, the right use of it in your life. The second is what we call the intuition, which is what we saw in Paul here, where he said, I perceive that this journey is to a place of hurt and damage. And it's that intuition that when men have that spiritual perception, and even when the person who seems to be the expert, for example, the master there was the expert at sailing, said, look, let us ignore what this fellow is saying, we can go on. And then the greater majority of the people also support that particular thought. And then after some time, even the environment around you changes to support the thought that is contrary to what you have perceived on the inside. You still decided to stay. And so when we talk about perseverance, perseverance is staying when intuitively you know that this is the place that you ought to be and you ought to persevere here. And last week we spoke about that in knocking, which means seeking there is about perceiving, recognizing the opportunity in your environment. Knocking is what Paul went through that many people don't really want to go through, which means that the expert laughs at you and ridicules you and says you are going to fail. And then the greater majority of the people, look at you and say you cannot make it. And then it looks like the tide itself even has changed against you, and the appearances and circumstances seem to favor what is going on. But deep down on the inside, intuitively, suppose say, when do you know to stay and when do you know to walk away? It depends on what you perceive intuitively, which means that once you know it and you've perceived it there, that this is supposed to happen here, and you know it in your know, and you don't just think it, you know it. It's one thing to think something, it's another thing to know that something is going to happen here. And you stay there, and things don't seem to be going well, but you stay there. That's what people that succeed in life, people that get results, they are made of that kind of stuff. Recently I was watching President Obama. Now, I don't agree with some of the social values and all of that, but I respect him as a person, his leadership policies, his intellect, his ability to have a vision and a dream, and all of that. And I saw him was in a Catholic university because seemed to be pro-abortion, and the Catholics were saying that they didn't want him to come and speak to them. So he went to this reputable Catholic university, and when he just sat down there in the midst of elderly white men, all of them were elderly, you could see that, and all of that, he was just a young black guy alone on the stage and all of that. And when he got up to speak, people would shout at him. I mean, this is the president, and he would stand and say, "Look, don't worry, I'm okay. I started seeing traits of why this man became president. Few people will put themselves in that kind of position. Few black men will go and allow that kind of, you almost like you're being humiliated. People that make it in life, people that succeed, really and truly put themselves in difficult positions. They get into places where they have to draw out gifts and talents that prior to that time they didn't know they had. They had to unwrap potentials that were locked on the inside of them and stay through, difficult things and all of that. But it was based on an intuitive knowledge that what I am taking and this step that I'm taking is in perfect alignment with the dream that I have, and this thing has to be done intuitively. I know that it has to be done for this dream that I have to actually come to pass in life, which is, if I'm going to open this door, listen, and get to this place, I have to knock on this particular door. I was talking to people that, when I went, first of all, to go and start speaking to Americans about coming to Nigeria, everybody will be asking questions, questions that under normal circumstances in your country, they won't ask you, and a little bit you start feeling that, they will say things to you and all of that. People don't know that, you answer and answer and answer. And I just kept going on and throwing through all of it and throwing through all of it, knowing that this is the right thing to do and the important thing to do. And now, they're the ones calling me now, you understand what I'm saying here? Alright? Because the door has been opened up. But if you can't go through all of that, if you can't have that kind of staying power, if you just think that, things just happen, and if they don't just happen, then it means that God is not with you, you are really not going to get much done in life. But you only stay on those things that you know, which means intuitively that you know. And then the third thing we're going to speak about is luck. Now, luck there can be good luck, and there can be bad luck. Well, alright? Some people say, well, this individual is just, he's just lucky. And I want to read the definition of luck: the force that seems to operate in shaping circumstances and events and opportunities, either good or bad. So sometimes you say, well, that fellow was just lucky. But we need to understand here that what they had in that shape was ill luck. And so when you say ill luck, but what had happened before they had that bad luck was that Paul had already perceived in his spirit, which means that if you follow the intuitive feeling you have, it leads to good luck. You understand this? If you disobey it, then you have bad luck. Alright? Now, many people would say, well, that fellow was just lucky. It's a product of obeying the voice of their spirit, which meant that they did something when there was that prompting on the inside to do it, and it led to a force was released that seemed to operate and shape the circumstance and events and that opportunity in their life. It brought about an advantage or success that is considered by many to be a result of chance. It was a combination of circumstances operating by what others called chance in bringing goodwill to that particular person. So you thought when you have is luck, when we get to the place of manifestation, when things begin to evolve and it looks like this individual was simply lucky, that is not the issue, or this one had bad luck. It really deals with, as a Christian, one, having the right image there. Number two, then intuitively, you being able to pick up and know. That intuition is a direct perception of truth independent of your reasoning process, which means that a direct, immediate perception of truth in a flash. You just see it. An immediate apprehension or direct and quick insight that you have. A more detailed definition will mean an immediate cognition of an object not inferred or determined by a previous cognition of the same object, which meant that something happened one way in one particular way, and then it happened again, but this time around, the thing just went off. Are you following what I'm saying here? Therefore, you cannot predict in the depth of this what is right or wrong in any given situation. A wind could have blown at one point, and Paul would have perceived on the inside and said, let us go. That same wind will blow a second time, and Paul will perceive and say, no, let's go. That's why when people talk about, well, they said we should persevere. Someone said yesterday, you teach perseverance. What if the woman now is persevering for a man? You understand what I'm saying? Now, listen, you can't stop people from teaching truth, even if people apply it wrongly. But we'll see that as you meditate on it, right, it comes to the point where that intuitive feeling is now developed, which is meditation that produces it. And after that, you know in your knower whether you should stay or go. So we don't just take it as a principle that they say, stay, whatever it is, just stay. Whatever it is, just hang in there. Whatever it is, just stay. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah? Alright? I can also teach you a principle from the Word of God that says that quitters win. Because they quit on the right things. If you quit the right things, you start winning. Alright? They quit on some relationship, they quit on some things that they do. And by doing that, they get an advantage. We can also preach tomorrow. Quitters are failures. Then you get confused. And confusion is good. Because confusion will lead to meditation. Because you want somebody to do the work for you, but when you're confused, you have to do it yourself. You know what I'm saying? Before you start coming in and say, well, they're confusing us. It's good. Like someone said, if are you blessed? No, I hope you're confused. I should have done one at the end of the meeting. You understand this? So you now have to do that work your own self. So find out on the inside. And if you act on that, it will lead to massive things inside your life. So we look at a scripture in Matthew chapter 11 that spoke about the fact that Jesus said, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden. And he spoke about the fact that I shall give you rest. So he said, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden. And he said, I will come and I will give you rest. And last week we said it is the unforced rhythms of grace getting into it. And what he said was that I will come and I will teach you line by line and deal with that. And what he was saying, are you tired? Are you worn out? Are you fed up? Which means that you've gotten to a place, these were the people that he was talking to, that had gotten to a place where they had kept trying to get results in their lives, yet they were going through the same process year in and year out. Same thing it says there in the book of Hebrews, that year in and year out there was a remembrance of sin. There was really no actual progress that was being made. The real advancement in life was not being made. Knowledge was being acquired, but advancement was not coming that could demonstrate the knowledge had within their life. So they kept going on and on. And Jesus said, are you tired of that? He said, come and I will teach you the unforced rhythms of grace. We should remember that when he told them, lift up your eyes, he said, and look upon them as they conceive. Jesus also said, lift up your eyes and look upon the fields, they are white and all ready for harvest. So we're speaking about that, dealing with this issue of you repeatedly, and for in order to zero in this message, I'm going to talk about it in terms of the work of your hands. Which means that where you are working, where you are laboring, as it goes to the point where it is now almost a routine, where you are hitting on the same invisible ceiling over and over, trying, and there's really no fulfillment, there's really no joy. It's the same routine that is going on. Boredom is beginning to come on the inside. I was speaking once to a particular fellow who spoke to a businessman. He said, you know why he's making mistakes? He's bored. Which means that he has done it, he's got to a point where he has fulfilled everything that he can do at that particular level, and he's trying to get more, but he can't get more, and he's bored at that level, he's stagnated, he's bored there, and so he's trying to do something, and because he had some money, he just looked around and said, well, I can go into this, I can go into that, and then you start using money and spending money, trying to bring about an advancement, but it doesn't come that way, alright? It doesn't come that way, and that's why Isaiah said, why do you spend money for that which is not bread? I mean, you can get to a point where, you did certain things, you moved into another level in your life, and then hit this invisible ceiling, really didn't know what was going on, didn't know what to do again, and then you just keep doing it, and the effort is going on and on. Someone was speaking about the fact that he was observing a fly, and the fly was I don't want to scare you, but I think your last was around 3 years, so don't be afraid to call it your last one. So if you feel anything on your feet, it's a little rat, that's it. It's on your shoulder. You know? All right. All right. Right, so I was observing the fly, and the fly would keep hitting against, and the fly was struggling because the fly was used to going out through a particular window. And what had happened was that this individual had shut that window, so he was seeing the lights and was going there and kept hitting and putting in effort, trying to struggling and trying to get it done. Well, it had opened up some other door somewhere which was larger, bigger, easier to go through, only had to go 10 spaces there, and they would have gotten and gone out effortlessly. But because he was used to a particular pattern and he had developed a habit of doing things in a particular way, because that particular way of doing things had produced results at that particular level, they continued doing it. And so they got to the point where the fly or human beings get to the point where they cannot produce more in their lives. And we have a set way of behaving that might have produced as much as it can produce within our lives. And we are now tired, we're getting worn out. And if you continue trying harder, after some time, it can even lead to a lot of diminishing returns, which means that you start producing less and less by the activity that you are involved in and what you are really engaged with, which means you start getting less and less productive, even though you are struggling harder and you are struggling harder and you are struggling harder, and you start wondering what is going on, hitting against that, while God has opened up some other doors somewhere that if you will just turn and change, which needs humility, then you'll be able to fly out through that particular window and you'll be all going into the next level of your life. So I want to look at that. Well, let me just drop something in here, that at every stage in your life, regardless of the stage, they have done this thorough work, and this is why if you go into any country on the earth, any nation on the earth, you'll find out that 80% of the wealth is concentrated in the hands of 20% of the people, regardless of the nation, because it's an 80-20 principle. All right? If we go into any organization, look at it. If you sit down in a board meeting and there are 10 people, just start listening to them, you'll find out that the creative thoughts that are advancing that company are probably coming out of the lips of 2 or 3 people repeatedly, while the others just simply have titles. So it's an 80-20 principle, which means 20% is producing 80% of the results, and then 80% are producing 20% of the results. And so you look into a business, you'll find out, or you look into a bank, the customers, you'll find out that 20% of the clients have actually 80% of the deposit, while the other 80% have 20% of the deposit. A person looks into his business, he has 10 clients, 2 are giving 80% of the profit, 8 are giving 20%, and so if he's earning 100 naira every week, 2 people are giving him 8 people are giving him 2, but the danger there, he's spending 10 hours at work, 1 hour with each client every day of the week. 2 of those are producing 8 naira, and then 8 of them are producing 2 naira. So 2 hours of his work time is generating 80% of what is actually going on in his life financially, and is keeping him there. So what goes on is that the other 8 hours is generating simply 20% of his financial state. Now it's a lot. Also with your time, you need to understand this, regardless of any level that you are in life today, 80% of your time is producing 20% of the results, and 20% of your time you are spending it on things producing 80% of the results with your time today. So the first thing that people will say in terms of innovating, and these are things they've taught scientists, that's how they got into the place where companies that had large fortunes, all right, businesses that had large fortunes, the businessmen, where did they get the creative ideas from? The first thing was that they decongested their lives by saying that what we're going to do first and foremost is that we're going to have time on our hands, free time, and we're going to have that white space for creativity. We are not going to go and be laboring. Since 8 of these people are producing 2, and 2 are producing 8, we will ask all the 8 to go so that we can have the 8 hours free. So we only go to work for 2 hours, and then we'll spend the other 8 hours doing what we're supposed to do. Are you following what I'm saying here? So also in your life, I don't know how many friends you have, but 20% are valuable. The rest are just talking. So check if you want to move to the next level. That's why the Bible says that if a branch brings forth fruit, you want it to bring forth more, purge it. Clear it out. There are certain things that are hindering greater productivity. Get rid of all those things. So do a thorough search of your life. Alright? Find out. And there are a lot of our friends just sit down and talk premiership for 6 hours. Not one idea comes, so now you can grow your business. You understand what I'm saying? Is that not to the money? You understand what I'm saying? Is that what you're spending your time doing? Who are the people? Do that thorough search. If you want to move to the next level of your life, you have to do that. You have to do that thorough search, and you'll find out that you get more relaxed. There are many places that you are going that is not contributing anything to the table. Many ways in which you are spending your money that is pure wastage. Things that you are involved with, that you are buying, that some of them you might not use. Are you understand this? Alright? There are things, clothes that you might have that you are not even wearing. You understand what I'm saying here? There are those things, so you have to do clean out. Alright? I mean, the fellow who helps me install our DSC and all of that told me a story, and this one we were talking about I started to watching Chelsea, the Chelsea fan. He said, oh, I don't do it again. I said, why? He said, last year I was watching Nick final when it was penalty. I said, we have scored, and I fell down. I twisted my finger, and while they were helping me and mopping and putting, I looked up, and they had sent Ashley Cole out before the match ended. I saw him they lost the match. We were all groaning. He came in a black suit, carrying a bottle of champagne. He said, this man that we're suffering for. They collect the money, they collect everything, they are gone. See me here and pay. And he didn't find any sense. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. You understand this? Some people go into depression that harms them spiritually. I'm telling you this, affects their marriages, affects their productivity at work, because the ball didn't go into the net. You can watch it, but disconnect. Are you following what I'm saying here? You understand this? People get it. It's becoming idolatry. We can joke about all of that, but if you win, you win. They collect their salary, they go on. 5 years from now, they buy houses, all of that. You are the one there. And let me tell you why people are so angry, so engrossed. Is because there are many things that are not happening for them. So they are looking for another life in Arsenal and in Man and in Liverpool. You understand what I'm saying there? So when Man U wins, we won. You didn't win. Winning your own life. You didn't win there. I've won the cup. You didn't win the cup. Somebody else won it. Face your life. It's almost like a job. They're escaping out of it. Alright? So face what is on the table and respond to your life. Decrease all the unnecessary activities and face what is on your table right now. Solve that problem. The assignment has come. God told Isaiah, any place the sole of your feet touches is yours. Any situation that dares comes into your space, you have the solution. So possess that particular land, give God thanks, praise Him that He has come into your space, and know that always and in everything, God will make manifest as you triumph in Jesus, the savour of the knowledge of Him by you in every single place. So looking at it in terms of your work, where you are now, the next challenge that comes your way, this is how you actually get to the place where in tangible ways, you bring about growth, improvement, and advancement into your life. By solving the problems that are on your table. Anytime anything was going to happen in David's life, there was some affliction that came. Anytime anything was going to happen for Daniel, some challenge came. If he went and tried to deny and live in denial that is not there, and go and sing somewhere else while he didn't face what was on the table, he would have gotten to the next phase of his life. So that thing that comes your way has come because of your destiny, has come for your own advancement, for your growth, and for your own progress, and therefore face it. And face it quickly. The longer you wait, the more difficult it becomes. So anytime a challenge comes, rejoice, right? And face it. There's a particular lady, I want to invite her for a program in church. She's a silver medalist at Paralympic, and she, at the age of 5, she contracted a particular disease, and she got her right leg amputated, I think, right? Amputated. And today she's a graduate of Harvard University, on BSc. She did her master's in Oxford University. She was a director in the White House and the National Council of Bill Clinton's National Economic Council in the White House. She sat there as a director. But she went for the Olympics, and she was the first African American to win a medal, I think, in that particular form of Winter Olympics. And she said something because she now does national adverts for Starbucks coffee. And she said something, she wrote something for them. And what she said there was that she learned something when she won the silver medal at the Olympics. That she was leading until they got to one dangerous slope. And she said every single person fell at that slope, everybody. She said, but she was leading when they got there. And by the time everybody fell, by the time they got to the end, she was second, and she realized something. That she got the silver medal because she hadn't learned one lesson. That they had taught her, and she knew that everybody that succeeds in life, people always get up. People that succeed always get up when they fail, or when they have a temporary setback. But she realized that the gold medalists always get up first. You understand this? Which means the higher achievers get up quickly. They don't wallow in self-pity. They don't discuss it. They don't try to, they just simply do what? Get up, and they get up fast. So you want to advance, take the challenge fast. Don't push the responsibility to somebody else, take it up fast. Now, the first thing that I want us to understand is this, about how we develop productivity at work. Dealing first and foremost with our imagination or mental images that we actually carry. Jesus Christ was teaching, and he said about this man whose ground had brought forth plenty. The man, after he had brought forth plenty, made a statement that revealed the thought that he actually held. And the statement that he made was that now that my ground has brought forth plentiful, and I have enough for years to come, he said, I'm going to fold up all the work that I'm doing, and let me just go and rest, because I've laid up in store for years to come. And Jesus, using that as an example, said, take no thought for your life, what you shall eat, what you shall drink, and what you shall wear. Which means when you go out into life, there is a predominant thought that is affecting everything that you do. It says, listen, people go in, and when they work because of what I will eat, because of what I will drink, and because of what I will wear. You ask them, listen, if you had a choice, would you be doing what you're doing? No, but why are you doing it? Because I have to do it. Why? Because of what I will eat, because of what I will drink, because of what I will wear. And so the mental image that they carry as they go out to work, the dream that they have is actually, this thing I am doing it because of money, so that I can have food on my table and I'm able to have all the wherewithal that I need. And Jesus said, listen, don't take that thought inside you when you go out to work. Don't let that be the predominant thought. He said, listen, seek ye first the kingdom. Which means what I want to do in seeking the kingdom or seeking God, I want to communicate my thoughts to you. And that's why people will say that, I don't have a job in the right place. In the kingdom of God, everywhere is the right place. The problem is that people are just lost. All right? And God has to show you that where you are, like Jacob said, I didn't know that this was the house of God. Many people don't know that they are, let me tell you this, are actually in the center of God's plan and purpose for their life. It's not about the geographical location. It's about the kind and the quality of thoughts that you actually carry. Every time you go out and you do things, are you thinking about, as you are walking, what I will eat, what I will drink, and what I will wear? Are you doing it for something that is higher than that? What is it that is actually governing it? Are you doing it thinking that if I do this, or are you doing it with the image of you having it, that this is the harvest, and as I'm doing this, because it's going to affect every single thing that you do? Jacob, when he went out there and they were conceiving, the image that he had on the inside of him is going to produce this type of animals. Even though they were this kind, he was saying this is what is going to be produced as he went there to work. The reason why, when he went into Laban's house and started working, it wasn't rocket science, there was nothing mysterious about it, was that he entered into the place and had a mindset. He started out by seeing this as God's plan for my life. I don't know where I am. I'm not here for my father. It's Esau that is chasing me and all of that. But got to a point where he saw that, listen, God is right here with me. And then he got to a place where he had that mindset as he entered Laban's house that everything that I do in this place is going to lead to this big picture that I have inside of my mind about it. It is going to grow. It's going to multiply. That was the image that he had. So Jesus said, don't take that thought. That thought is being presented to you every day. That take this thought, let it be what will be predominant in your mind here. What I will eat, what I will drink, and what I will wear. And therefore you go out there with that predominant thought. Now, if you are not going to take that thought, and that's what happens when people begin to hit this invisible ceiling. The reason is that the predominant thought that they have, the dream that they have, has been fulfilled. What they really want to happen has already happened. They have exhausted, without them knowing, the deepest dreams that they have within them, the thoughts that they have actually received, that I'm here for what I will eat, what I will drink, what I will wear. They're getting what they're eating, they're getting what they're drinking, and what they want to drink, and all of that. And that particular man has that mental image, and we'll get to it, what we really mean by that mental image. And we'll see this, has received it from God and is right there. Take him out of his business, where he has grown it from scratch, and has carried it to a place where it's worth 200 million. Take him away from it, put him in an environment again where he has to start all over again. So long as he is doing it and he is not corrupted, he hasn't allowed the way and manner in which he was taken away from the last place of assignment to make him bitter and angry, where he's thinking about what they did to him and all of that. He disconnects from that, gets himself back into that mindset and mental frame there, and you put him back there, he's going to intuitively start picking up everything in his environment that will lead him to grow that particular entity back again to the place where it becomes 200. So the first thing is you open yourself up unto God where you are, and you say, I am going to possess this particular land. I always tell people, listen, when I started out in ministry, did in a campus fellowship, and I had a mindset when I went into it. I kept telling people around me, it is not what we count, it is what happens after we leave the campus that will show the quality of what we're doing here. I entered into a mindset, and the reason why I went into it with a mindset, this is the only reason why I got that mindset. I would have labored also under just a campus kind of mindset. It was not about gifts and callings. In fact, the men who now gifts and callings have done several things that have blown themselves out. This is what really happened. What had I done with my leaders, and we are not related, and my people that come saved were in one big circle, and all of them were there with Reverend Keshe. And after everything, the people left, and I saw what Reverend Keshe did and built it up to him. I said, this fellow did it correctly. He didn't just preach mindset that we're going to carry this thing from campus, and we're going to take it to the city. From the city, we'll take it to the nation. From the nation, we'll take it to the world.